Part 3, where God learned to speak through others. Years passed quietly, not in the way movies show healing, no sudden light. No moment where everything made sense. Time moved forward the way it always does, unevenly, patiently, without asking permission. Elias changed, but not dramatically. He didn't become louder. He didn't become stronger in the way people admire. He became present. The hospital corridors no longer scared him. The smell of antiseptic no longer tightened his chest. He learned where the chairs were most comfortable for waiting. Which nurses spoke softly. Which hours felt the longest for families who didn't know yet what they were about to lose. He never told people what would happen. He told them he would stay, and somehow that mattered more. One winter evening, the power went out in the East Wing. Emergency lights flickered on, casting long shadows across the walls. Panic rose quietly, the kind that doesn't scream but trembles. Elias was sitting with an elderly woman whose son hadn't arrived yet. "I'm afraid," she whispered. He took her hand. "So am I," he admitted. She looked surprised. "Then why are you calm?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because fear doesn't mean absence anymore," he said. "It just means we're human." She squeezed his hand tighter. Later that night, Elias stepped outside into the cold. Snow fell gently, covering the city in something that felt like forgiveness. He remembered the man on the steps, the voice that didn't rush him, the honesty that didn't protect him from pain, but didn't abandon him to it either. For the first time, Elias spoke out loud, not as a plea, not as a question. "I see what you did," he said. There was no answer, but there was peace. Spring came. Elias began to notice something strange. People sat beside him the way he once sat beside God. They talked without knowing why. They cried without explaining. They trusted him without reason. One afternoon, a boy no older than 16 sat next to him, knees bouncing. "My dad died," the boy said suddenly. "Everyone tells me to be strong." Elias shook his head gently. "You don't have to be strong here," he said. "You just have to stay." The boy stared at him, eyes red. "How do you know that?" Elias smiled softly. "Because someone once stayed with me." Years later, Elias returned to the old train station. The steps were still cracked. The track still led nowhere obvious. He sat down where it all began. For a long time, nothing happened. Then a woman sat beside him. "I don't believe in God," she said. Elias nodded. "That's okay." She frowned. "You're not going to argue?" "No," he said. "I'm just going to listen." They sat together as the sun dipped low. And for a moment, just a moment, the world slowed enough for something sacred to pass between them. Elias never saw God again, not in a form he could recognize. But sometimes, when he sat beside someone in their darkest hour, he felt it. That quiet strength, that steady presence. Not coming from him, but through him. And he understood. God had never left. He had simply learned to speak in human voices. Final truth. God does not always remain where we first meet him. Sometimes, he walks with us long enough to teach us how to carry him into the lives of others. And when we do, the world changes, one quiet presence at a time.